3 recruits cornered her in the dark alley behind the bar. They were laughing, drunk on cheap beer and cheaper confidence. She stood there, quiet, still. One of them cracked his knuckles. Another stepped closer. Then she said 5 words that changed everything. "Remember who I am." 45 seconds later, all 3 were on the ground. And that's when they realized she wasn't just any woman. She was a Navy SEAL. Tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? And if this story resonates with you, consider subscribing for more true, heartfelt stories. The air was thick with salt and testosterone at the Anchor, a dive bar 2 miles from Naval Base Coronado. The kind of place where recruits came to feel dangerous before they'd earned the right. Where beer was cheap and egos were cheaper. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen sat alone at the far end of the bar, her hands wrapped around a glass of water. Not whiskey, not beer, water. Because even on her night off, discipline was a language her body spoke fluently. She wore civilian clothes, a plain gray hoodie, jeans, sneakers. Nothing that screamed military. Nothing that said, "I've completed Hell Week 3 times as an instructor." Nothing that whispered, "I've operated in 12 countries you couldn't find on a map." She looked ordinary, 5'6", 140 pounds. Dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. To the drunk recruits stumbling through the door at 2 a.m., she was invisible. A shadow. A nobody. But Sarah Chen was anything but invisible. She'd been the first woman to graduate her SEAL class in the top 3. She'd earned her trident in blood, sweat, and a kind of suffering most people couldn't comprehend. She'd carried wounded teammates through enemy fire. She'd made calls in the dark that saved lives and cost others. And tonight, she just wanted to be left alone. The 3 recruits were loud before they even entered. Their voices bounced off the walls like rubber balls, all energy, no substance. Fresh out of basic. Maybe 3 months in. Still soft. Still stupid, they swaggered to the bar. Ordered shots. Made jokes about instructors. About how easy training was. About what they do when they become SEALs. Sarah's jaw tightened. She knew that type. Seen 100 just like them. Most washed out by week 2. The ones who stayed, they learned humility the hard way. One of them, broad shoulders, buzz cut, tattoo of an anchor on his forearm that looked like it was drawn by a child, noticed her. His eyes crawled over her like insects. He nudged his friends, whispered something. They laughed. Sarah didn't react. She took another sip of water. Cold, clean, clear. The recruit slid onto the stool next to her. Too close. His breath smelled like Jameson and regret. "Hey there," he said, voice dripping with false confidence. "You waiting for someone?" "No," Sarah replied. Her voice flat, neutral, the kind of tone that should have been a warning. "Well, you are now." He grinned. His friends chuckled behind him. Sarah turned her head slowly, looked him dead in the eye. "I'm not interested. Come on, don't be like that." He leaned closer. His hand moved toward her shoulder. She caught his wrist midair. Didn't grab it. Just stopped it. Her fingers wrapped around his arm like a vice made of silk and steel. "Don't touch me," she said quietly. He yanked his hand back. Surprised. His face flushed. His friend stopped laughing. "Whoa, relax," he said, louder now. Defensive. "I was just being friendly." "You weren't," Sarah said. She turned back to her water. The recruit's face darkened. Embarrassment turned to anger. He stood up. His friends flanked him. The bartender looked over but didn't move. This wasn't his first rodeo. "You know what?" the recruit said, voice rising. "You've got a real attitude problem." Sarah didn't respond. "I said, you've got a—" "I heard you," Sarah interrupted. Still calm. Still quiet. "And I don't care." The bar went silent. Other patrons watched. Some pulled out phones. The recruit's friends exchanged glances. This wasn't going how they planned. Maybe you need to be taught some manners, the recruit said. Stepping closer, Sarah stood, slowly, deliberately. She was shorter than him by 4 inches, lighter by 60 pounds. But when she stood, the air in the room shifted. Walk away, she said. Not a threat. A fact, the recruit laughed. Looked at his friends. Did she just walk away? Sarah's voice dropped an octave. Cold as a blade, sharp as a bullet, the recruit's hand shot out to grab her shoulder. And that's when it happened. 40-5 seconds. That's all it took. Sarah moved like water. Like wind. Like something that existed between thought and action. She redirected his grab, used his momentum against him, and in one fluid motion had him face down on the bar. His arm twisted behind his back at an angle that made his friends wince. The second recruit lunged. Sarah released the first, pivoted, caught the second's punch midair, and swept his legs. He hit the floor hard. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The third recruit hesitated. Fatal mistake. Sarah closed the distance before his brain could process. A strike to the solar plexus. Not hard enough to kill. Hard enough to make him forget how to breathe. He crumpled. 40-5 seconds. Sarah stood there, breathing normal. Heart rate barely elevated. The 3 recruits groaned on the ground around her like broken furniture. She looked at them, waited for their eyes to focus. Remember who I am, she said quietly. The first recruit, the one who'd started it, looked up at her through watering eyes. Something clicked in his drunken brain. The hoodie, the posture, the way she moved. You're Lieutenant Commander Chen, he whispered. Horror dawning on his face. Sarah nodded once. You're our Hell Week instructor, he breathed. I am, she said. And you 3 just earned yourselves a special training session. Monday morning. 400, come find me. The color drained from their faces. Sarah dropped a 20 on the bar for her water. Looked at the bartender. Sorry about the mess. He grinned. Ma'am, that was the best entertainment I've had all year. She walked toward the door. Every eye in the bar followed her. At the threshold, she paused. Turned back. Gentlemen, she said, addressing the entire bar, respect isn't given because of how you look. It's earned by who you are. Remember that. She stepped into the night. The cool San Diego air wrapped around her like a familiar blanket. Behind her, the bar erupted in whispers and stunned silence. Monday morning came fast. 400. The beach was dark and cold. Sarah stood at the edge of the surf, arms crossed, waiting. The 3 recruits appeared. On time, sober, terrified. Lieutenant Commander Chen, the first one said, voice shaking. We ... we want to apologize. Sarah studied them. Saw something different in their eyes now. Not arrogance, humility. Why? She asked. Because we disrespected you, the second recruit said. Not just me, Sarah corrected. You disrespected yourselves. You disrespected the uniform you're trying to earn. You disrespected every person who's ever fought for the privilege to wear that trident. They nodded, looked at their feet. You know what separates a recruit from a SEAL? Sarah asked. They shook their heads. A SEAL knows that strength isn't about dominance. It's about discipline. It's not about proving you're tough. It's about being tough when no one's watching. It's not about breaking others down. It's about building your team up. She stepped closer. You want to be SEALs? Then start acting like it. Not when it's easy. Not when it's convenient. All the time. Yes, ma'am, they said in unison. Sarah nodded. Good. Now drop and give me 200 push-ups, each. Then we'll see if you're ready to learn what real strength looks like. As they dropped to the sand, Sarah watched the sun begin to rise over the Pacific. Another day. Another lesson. Another chance to turn boys into warriors. And as the waves crashed against the shore, she smiled. Because this was why she'd endured Hell Week. Why she fought for her place. Why she wore that trident. Not to prove she could, but to show others they could too. Thanks for watching till the end. If this story touched you, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe for more real stories.